Well, I want to thank the organizers of this event, and I want to thank Andrea and Maria. I want to acknowledge that that's a really hard act to follow, as we say in the United States. That was very moving. I'm going to share with you some patterns that a study group that I work with called Up Against Family Law Exceptionalism has developed for thinking about some of the themes that have emerged today. And my hope is to take advantage of this amazing moment in which we have from Maria the gigantic acknowledgement that you have offered us, and thank you so much, of the importance of acknowledging domestic workers as key elements of developing economies. And I can wait a minute for this because I'd like Maria to be part of the conversation. Is it working? Good. We have the idea that it's very useful to think of a state-family market pattern as what liberal market economies kind of depend upon. And I'm just going to draw it on the board, but I have to stick with my mic, so I'll just leave the mic for a moment. Like this. Every person in a liberal market economy has needs, and those needs are going to be met through some arrangement of these three elements. Charitable contributions and churches and private organizations may have a role, but it has shrunk so significantly in modernity that we don't put it on the pattern excepting when it's really salient. If you are hungry, if you need housing, if you need medicine, if you are cold, you can get your needs taken care of from one of these three places. The state can provide welfare. You can work it out in the marketplace. That is to say, and of course we have in this conversation the formal and informal distinction, very important. And or you can familialize your needs. That is to say, you can meet those needs in the context of the family. And we don't think that the family is the marital blood family. We like to turn to the word the household in order to acknowledge the fact that the household can be elastic with respect to who's in it and what roles are performed in it. It has been an important part of our study group's work to say that domestic workers so exemplify this liberal pattern because they are, when they're at work, when they're in the market, they're in somebody else's family. And why are they there? Because they're trying to meet their own dependency needs and those of the people dependent upon them. Now, when we in our group, we very rarely have had the opportunity to think of something that's key to the substance of this conference, and that is, how does this pattern get reshaped when the state is being reformed, when the state itself is changing its shape? And that is happening right now in your country. And so we're interested in the ways in which, as the state reorients itself with respect to this long, long period of internal conflict and recoalesces on a new conception of citizenship, participation, membership, new allocations of power at the highest level of political settlement, how is that going to affect the dynamic relationships between the family and the market? For professional workers, for women working in the home with professional husbands, for women working in the home who have taken up the call of the Department of Labor and said, I'm going to work in the marketplace. I'm going to become a doctor. I'm going to become a director of a company. I'm going to become a welder. Well, that involves leaving the family, going into the marketplace, and leaving what we call in the family the care gap. A gap of the care that was provided by that woman when she was in that home is now to be filled. And that's where the suction is as we move women into the workplace, the suction that is creating the demand for domestic labor. And in every liberal market economy all over the world, that domestic labor will be performed by some of the people who are at the weakest end of the scale of what we call bargaining power advantage in employment markets. It's also an interesting market because it is very rare. I ask my students this all the time. Would you hire a man for a nanny? And no matter how advanced they are as sex equality, rah types, they'll say no. And so, it's going to be a very long time before that changes. I hope it will change, and I think it will change, but it is still women's work. It was women's work before the woman went into the marketplace, and it's women's work now that a woman domestic worker takes it up. So it's not just the cause of domestic workers to think about what you have brought onto the table, Maria. It is a state issue about how to address this dynamic between the market and the family, which is very endemic at every level. I mean, it's not just this one care gap and, this very low-paid work. By the way, the reason it's been so informalized is in part because it's been thought of as being a member of the family. And you wouldn't pay your aunt to take care of your child. You wouldn't pay your domestic worker much to do it, right? It follows and you're one of the family. And it was really amazing to hear you say, I'm not part of the family. That's a strong statement because it's very rare that domestic workers will say that because it's very important to act caring. Otherwise, you don't get a job. And to be caring, or you don't get a job. It goes with it's core to the job definition. But it happens at every level of the economy. The fact that we look to our employers for medical insurance for our families in the United States instead of to the state, we don't have health insurance coming from the state. That decision to shrink state provision puts it on a relationship between the workplace and the family. They're not divorced institutions, even though we think of them as extremely far apart for any of us, okay? So I just wanted to offer that as a kind of, if peace is to come, and if the state is going to remake itself, and we get a chance to push the reset button, and we know these things that have been said today on our panel, what kind of state do we want for addressing this fundamental aspect of human need? Okay, that's all I've got. Thank you.